Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coach Jackson's Action Jackson Fitness Client Success Stories. We have another incredible, amazing client I'm super proud of. I'm so excited to bring his story to you. This is Garrett. Now, Garrett has been on a long journey. He has been on a journey for a couple years now. He's really completely revolutionized, transformed his health, his fitness, his mindset, his emotions, his body, everything. And he's finally got the full six-pack, the dream body, the aesthetic, amazing athletic physique. So Garrett, it's pretty exciting to talk to you because, wow, your journey's been really incredible. Since we started working together, you've obviously made a tremendous amount of progress, but you've made a lot of progress even before that. So we're going to dive into all of it. Some quick stats here. Just while we worked together in the very short time, the 4 months of the program, you lost 15 pounds. More importantly, you lost 4.5% body fat, 2 inches off the waist. But here's the kicker. Here, everybody, is the kicker. This is the magic elixir, the thing that everybody says you can't do. We lost 4.5 pounds or 4.5% body fat while gaining 8.6 pounds of lean muscle. Holy cow, Garrett. Give me a bicep shot, man.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Garrett. I have been on a long journey. You know, when I first started this journey, it was about 4 years ago, and my body fat was around 35%, something in that range. And it started with me just trying to lose weight. You know, I lost 60 pounds and I had body fat, and then I looked skinny fat at that point, but I was much better off than I had been. And then I started getting into weightlifting, and I weightlifted for a while without any real direction or instruction, just watching YouTube videos and trying to do the best I can. And then it got to the point where maybe I got a little cocky. You know, it got to the point where I decided my deadlift was going up. Every week, my deadlift numbers were going up, and I kept pushing it and I wasn't wearing a belt. I mean, I don't know if my form was great or not, because I never asked anybody for feedback on my form. And I got to the point where I was lifting a bit over twice my body weight. And it was about 365. I think it was 365. And that was the one that I injured my back on that one. And that was about 2 years ago that I injured my back pretty badly. I slipped a disc, and that was giving me pain for maybe 9 months. It got to the point where I was considering surgery. I was taking painkillers. I was doing all kinds of different things just to be able to live day to day. And it got into a little bit of yoga. I tried the chiropractor. I tried the acupuncture. I tried all the different modalities, and then it got to the point where my workouts, of course, I modified my workouts. I couldn't do squats. I couldn't do deadlifts. I couldn't do anything that put any sort of force on my back. So I was also losing muscle mass, and I was not looking the way that I wanted to look necessarily. So I came to the coach, and I discovered Coach Jackson on the tonal, and I contacted him and I asked him, hey, could you put together a program for me that takes my back into account, and that could help me reach my goals. And within a month of starting that program, my back pain was down probably about 50% from where it had been when I had first started the program. And not only was my back pain down, but I lost a lot of fat very quickly. And then I started gaining muscle in the months after that. And, as we can see now I'm in better shape than I've ever been before in my life. It was even through all of that stuff I had to deal with. I used to do workouts where I'd spend 2 hours in the gym and probably 3 to 5 minutes resting between sets. Of course, I'd spend 2 hours in the gym, and it's 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. And I'd just work till I felt like I was dying. I just pushed myself. And now with his workouts, it's 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm done. And I follow the diet. The diet, of course, is probably 80-90% of it, but the whole program has been an amazing program for me. It really has shown me an amount of control that I can have over my body that I didn't realize I could have before.
Yeah, when you get a good, strong strategic plan, right, and you're just executing the plan, it's amazing how much you can get done in such a very short time. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all had, whether it's a day that we've had very productive or a certain workout that we've had really productive, where somebody just creates it for you and goes through, and all of a sudden you're just executing. It's amazing. You just get everything done so fast. And then, of course, when we start accounting for injuries, we start changing things up, making some modifications. And then, of course, working on those weaknesses to try to strengthen them up. Again, amazing the type of progress you can make in a very short period of time. But you've made an incredible transformation. But let's go back, let's go
Yeah.
way back. What was the catalyst? What was the thing that all of a sudden flipped the switch that said, I've got to get in shape. I've got to change things? Because, yeah, to your point, I mean, you were like a completely different person at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I am a programmer. I spend all day long at the computer, where I'm at right now. I day trade, I program, I do all kinds of things, but they always are me in a chair, So at the end of the day, I was eating. There was a point where I was eating, Domino's pizza 2-3 times a week. I was eating whatever. I would just eat whatever made me feel good, and I was emotionally eating. And one day I walked by the mirror and I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm at the point where I'm right on the edge of calling myself obese. I'm right on the edge of the point where it's going to be too far and I'm going to feel like it's a mountain, and I said, something needs to change today or I'm going to be this way for the next 10 years. And I did not want to follow that path. So I immediately started researching online and, trying to learn about all this stuff like macros and calories and dietary stuff. And there's so much information out there and so much of it is contradictory, and it's hard to learn what to follow. But at the end of the day, I just told myself, as long as I get to the gym physically each day and I eat within a certain number of calories, that was my goal. Everything else was too complex at that point. It was just, as long as I did those things, it was enough. And that kept my motivation going. I hit 30 days of physically getting to the gym, and then it was easier to get to the gym. And then it got to the point where I missed the gym if I didn't go there, So, and now these days, if I don't work out, I feel like a huge chunk of my day is missing, So it's definitely become a part of my life like it definitely wasn't before. Yeah.
Wow. That's just incredible to see yourself in the mirror like that, to be so honest with yourself, so self-aware, and then to make that decision and stick to it. Wow. That's incredible. And I think it says a lot about your character, but also probably the intensity at which you made that commitment and that decision to yourself, which a lot of people don't make that strong commitment to themselves and they let themselves off the hook. What kept you going day after day after day in those early days? I mean, it's got to be the same kind of drive and fire that's keeping you going today. What was that? How did you describe that?
I'm not going to say that was the first time I tried to turn everything around, but it was definitely, I knew at that point that it wasn't just about how I look. It wasn't just about how I felt about myself or how others saw me. At that point, it was about my health. It was like, I'm going to die 10 or 20 years earlier than I need to. I'm going to end up on all kinds of medications I don't need to be on. And once I saw myself heading that direction and I realized, I was about to head into my 30s looking that way, that wasn't the way that I wanted to live the rest of my life. So, but definitely, I mean, day after day, I was going to give it a chance because everything that I read said 3 months until you see some results, 4 months until you see some results. And so I said, you know what? The worst that could happen is in 90 days, I look the same. So I decided to give that a shot. And then after 90 days, I really did, actually much sooner than that, because I I started out with more of a keto type program, but within about, I would say, 45 days, I started to see results, and the results kept me going.
That's incredible. I think so many people think it's just about the aesthetics or it's just about the six pack or the looks. And you have that now, which is fantastic. And it feels
Yeah.
great. And it's confidence boosting, and it's all the good things that people think it's going to be. But to your point, I really do think it is a bit of a byproduct of living a healthy, active, long life, avoiding the medical issues and the problems. And health has never been more important for people at this point, right? Coming out of the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
And we know that doing these things, exercise, by tracking macros or sticking to a diet and maintaining healthy levels of muscle mass and body fat and et cetera, we know how important this is for health, for longevity, for activity, and even just financially. Think about how much it costs when you have health problems. It's just
Yes.
incredible. I share very similar sentiment. I used to be a programmer as well in another lifetime. I used to sit
Yep.
at the desk. I used to trade options a lot and Forex. And I had this example of my mom in front of me who never did anything physical and ate whatever
Yeah.
she wanted. And I'm sad to say she died way too young because of it. It was just, it's awful. And it was heart wrenching, gut wrenching on
Yep.
me, on my family, on my dad, on everybody. I never wanted to live like that. And my goal is to help people just like you and others so that they could avoid that fate. It's been just incredible watching your journey. And even though I didn't participate in that first leg of the journey, just seeing you come in and where you're at now and how far you've come, I'm so proud of you. And I'm so excited about the future and where you're even headed from here, because I know you're not done yet. But
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about the results that you got. So beginning the program, you started, and even within the first month, I couldn't believe some of the progress you made. I mean, you came out of the gates hot and you were making progress immediately. So,
Yeah.
I mean, why don't you talk about that a little bit, just the journey, month to month progress that you saw and kind of where you're at today?
Well, the first month was definitely the most drastic change, I think, because we start with the low carb stuff, and up to that point I'd been pretty much in vacation mode for a while, and I was still lifting weights, but it wasn't to my normal commitment level, and my back was hurting a lot, so it was kind of more spaced out because of that. And so when I started the low carb mixed with the program that I was on, I mean, I saw weight drop off very quickly. And I mean, I had abs before, but never they would be there for maybe, 15 minutes after my workout. And that was about the extent of it. But, they started to actually stick around. And that was exciting to me. So when I started to see that, I doubled down and really committed myself to this program because I saw it working. And then in the second, third month, the calories go up a little bit and everything gets a little bit easier as far as the diet goes. But I started to see actual muscle growth instead of muscle growth and fat gain, because to me, I looked at the calories and I kind of said to myself, this isn't enough calories. Like I can't survive on this, because when I bulked in the past, it had been on a lot more calories than that, but I would always be adding fat too. With this program, I found that I was gaining muscle just at a slower rate, but I wasn't adding any fat. And that to me was more exciting. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then the results in the end, of course, I mean, they speak for themselves. I get comments every day now from friends and family. And it used to be to the point where it was kind of like, oh, hey, like what program are you on? Or like, what are you doing? And now it's more like, a jealousy or a quick little jab, which is funny. And the fact is, whenever anybody asks me for advice and it's like, oh, well, I'm lifting weights and I'm eating better, they're like, oh, they always want like what pill are you taking or some thing like that. It's not the case. It's work. Yeah.
It's definitely hard work. There's no bones about it. Whenever I talk to people, they're like, well, what's the secret? I'm like, well, the secret is obviously getting a few of these puzzle pieces lined up, getting
Yeah.
all things lined up, right? It's not just the training. It's not just the nutrition. It's the training, the nutrition, the mindset, and then the accountability and support. When you get all those things
Totally.
lined up, bam, now you are in for a drastic change.
Yep.
And from an accountability and support perspective, you were so active in the community and you were just such a positive really influence so many people, including myself. Why don't you talk about that? What kind of role did that play in terms of either getting feedback and keeping you going and momentum, or just keeping you held accountable? Like, how did that help in this transformation?
I really like the accountability and support part of the program, because it made me feel like, because I'm giving advice and like talking to people on these boards, and then I had to feel like, well, I have to be the kind of person who can feel good about giving advice, like I can't just be not doing it myself and then recommending that to others. So it's like, it really builds that into your brain, like that's what's keeping me going day after day. And if I'm not active on the board, then I'm probably, not being active on my own. But I'm doing, for me, being active on the board makes me feel more dedicated to my own program. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's something, and they talk a lot about this, and whether it's academics or in different training programs, where if you learn something, right, if you listen and learn something, okay, if you listen and then you write it down, okay, now you're increasing your sort of consumption and the rate at which you're going to remember this. Now, if you take something, you write it down, and then you go teach it to somebody else, your sort of understanding starts to go to an incredibly high level. And
Right.
to your point, now take this information, you're executing on it, now you're explaining it to other people, you're helping other people, you're lifting out your hand and helping them up to get to where you're at. So your understanding of the material goes up, but it also creates this sort of identity shift in your head where it's like, yes, I'm the kind of person that, and I
Yep.
understand this enough that I can teach this, and now I better live this because I'm telling them what I'm doing, and this is now who I've become. So
Right.
it's incredible how that identity shift goes, and you've lived it, man. You're embodying it, and I love it. So
Well, thank
it's
you.
been incredible to see, for sure. See the help that you get, the inspiration, the education that you've been doing, and we get more people just like you, and it's influencing then your friends, your family, coworkers, colleagues, all these people around you. That's how we make a positive change in the world. I think you know this, but your transformation helps so many more people than you think it does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Well, I mean,
For
like
sure.
my dad has always been a yo-yo dieter. He does a lot of cardio and eats very healthy for a period of time, drops 30 or 40 pounds, and then, switches off the diet, stops doing cardio, and gains back 30 or 40 pounds. And he's been that way his whole life. And just recently, he's been asking me like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, well, you got to do a little bit of weightlifting. It keeps your metabolism going. It increases muscle mass, and as you get older, you lose that muscle mass, and your metabolism slows down because you're losing that muscle mass. So if you just throw a little bit of weightlifting in there, maybe a little bit with some regularity, then it can really help you. And you don't have to do so much cardio, and you can watch your diet at a more medium level instead of taking it to the extreme one way or the other. And so now he bought some weights, and he's got a little gym going in his house, and he's just starting to get on there. So he that was something I was proud of him for, was actually seeing what I was doing, and then actually listening.
That is fantastic. And
Yeah.
that's large part because of the example you're setting and the person you are. So
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about, like, what were some of the obstacles that you faced along the way? I mean, obviously the journey's been
Mm.
incredible, the results are incredible, but what obstacles did you face and how did you overcome those?
Obstacles. I mean, the biggest obstacle for me is night eating. I'm good about my diet all day long, and then it turns 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden my lizard brain turns on and says, hey, I think there's something in the fridge, or I think there's something in the cupboard, or we could eat half a jar of peanut butter right now, whatever. But for me, I found just getting something in my stomach that was healthy was definitely more effective than waiting until that part of my brain kicked in. So I would have, a decaf coffee. I would make sure that I got, if I was on a higher fat day, I would make sure that I ate all of my fats, because if I didn't eat all of my fats, I would be starving. I feel very hungry. And then
Good
if
word
I,
change. Good
yeah.
word change.
I found that oats and protein powder were a very good evening snack for me. It almost felt like a dessert or something after my biggest final meal of the day. There were a few little changes that I made, and it made that less of an issue. So, I mean, I still get hungry at night sometimes, but usually I can drink some water and power through it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So the word change you just made, let's talk a little bit
Mhm.
about mindset stuff. So we
Yeah.
talk a lot about mindset in the program. Words certainly matter. The way you describe yourself, the way you think about yourself, these things matter. You said I was starving, and then you switched it and said, no, actually I wasn't starving. I was just very hungry. That's
Right.
important. Those things
Yep.
matter. What's
Yep.
the journey been like mentally? We know physically what it's been like. What's it been like mentally for you?
Mentally, I mean, word choice is important, like you said, saying I'm starving, saying uh I'm exhausted, there are lots of things where we take things to the where I take things to the extreme, and I don't necessarily mean that. I'm just being more dramatic than I need to be, and that in my mind makes it more of a it makes it less of a final decision and more of a, hey, you know what, I could do a little bit of this workout even though I'm tired, or I could choose to eat something healthier even though I want to shove something in my face right this second. Those things, yeah, they definitely do matter.
Awesome. And just changing the words or changing your perspective or changing just a little bit of the way you might react to something can have just such a dramatic difference when you compound that day in, day out, day in, day out. Because to your point, changing up just the way you think about hunger, all of a sudden, bam, every single day, now you feel that it has a different meaning than it used to. And that is really, I think people, they put too much emphasis on things um, that happen very rarely and not enough emphasis on things that happen every single day, right? These
Yeah.
habits that they do
Yeah.
every single day are the ones that are going to matter. So if it's late night eating, to your point, if you can change that, that can often have a much bigger change on your weight loss than tracking every single macro and weighing everything meticulously. Although
Yep.
doing both those things is going to even help more.
Yep. Yeah. No, and that was one big thing. I mean, I've weighed everything and tracked everything for a long time, so that wasn't really a big deal to me to continue doing that. But being honest with myself, that was one big thing where it's like I've gone off the deep end today. Am I going to keep tracking things? And I would, and so it would be like, oh, you're negative 1,400 calories today, or whatever ridiculous amount, and it's at that point that I can go back and say, I messed up here, instead of being able to just push it to the back of my mind and not think about it the next day, and then I can see if there's a pattern forming, and choose to do something about that pattern. Because for me, I have to know myself, and I have to choose to make it easier on my future self to follow the plan, if that makes sense. Because I
100%.
because I know who I am in the moment, and I'm not going to make better choices tomorrow than I did today, just because I I think, because I'm trying to will myself to. For me, it's more about like planning what I'm going to eat tomorrow, maybe changing things around a little bit if that's going to make things easier, and make it so that my future self can make better decisions because he has better information, or better planning, actually.
That's a huge, huge, huge point you just mentioned. And I want to acknowledge it so people at home can grasp it. You said making bad decisions today is not going to help my future self, but it's going to make it harder on my future self. Whereas what most people think is, oh, I can make bad decisions today, and my future self is going to be better, stronger, more capable, like more patient, like doubtful
Yeah.
that's going to happen, especially if you make decisions today. But
Yep.
you also mentioned that even that you weren't perfect, obviously, you did have some bad days. But when you had bad days, you didn't pretend it wasn't happening. You acknowledged it, you were aware of it, and then you took stock of it. How did
Yep.
you how were you able to overcome some of those bad days? Because we talk all the time about progress, not perfection in the program. Like that's one of our kind of key taglines, progress, not perfection. How did you handle some of those days where maybe the diet wasn't perfect, or you skipped a workout and you missed it, or something happened? How did you handle failure and come back and stay consistent for so long, right? Because you might not have been perfect, but you made a crap ton of progress. How did you do it?
Yeah. I mean, one of the big things for me is if I can look at it and analyze it and say what went wrong here. Because it's like, if I was very hungry, it usually means either I ate something that increased my insulin levels too much, or I ate in a manner that left me hungry for that period of time. And I can choose to change up my diet plan for the next day in a way that balances things out a little bit better, or makes it so that I'm eating something maybe that's more filling, closer to that period, to that time period. And that's really what I do when it comes to correcting my diet. Now, if I miss a workout, first off, I tend to feel guilty about it.
Sure.
So I'm going. I don't miss a lot of workouts. I just don't. I can't. I physically cannot. If it's been 2-3 days without a workout, I feel terrible about myself. So it's just that's just a mentally ingrained thing in me at this point. That's from years of trying to make it to the gym, all the time. And now these days it's even easy. It's a tonal, it's in my house. It is 5 seconds from my bedroom. So I have no excuse there.
That's an identity you have for yourself and a standard you've set. And
Yeah.
that's fantastic, because now, to your point, if you don't do that, it's like a part of you is dying. It's like, if I don't do this, I feel like inside.
Mhm.
And I would say some people would argue that's not a good thing, but I'd say that's a great thing, because you've identified, right? You've changed your identity. You have this thing that we know is positive, that is healthy. You're not taking it to a negative extreme, and you're not working out for 2-3 hours a day anymore. You're working out for 45 minutes. You're working out how many times per week are you getting after it?
4 to 5. Yeah.
4 to 5 days a week. I mean, very, very healthy. That is a fantastic workout balance. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just great. It's just great that you've been able to keep that habit up consistently for a long enough period of time to make that part of your identity now, and get to the point where that is a standard you hold for yourself, and you hold that standard very highly, and the integrity you have with yourself to stick with it day in, day out. Fantastic, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I
thank
want
you.
to be respectful of your time, so I don't want to take too much more time. But 1 or 2 more questions here. Let's say somebody's at home and they're just getting started with their journey, and
Mhm.
they're where you were a couple years ago. They're in
Mhm.
that dark place where they're not working out, they're eating too much, they're struggling. What do you say to that person? What do you say to that person to tell them you can do it, and it is possible, and here's how you get started?
I tell them, trust in the plan and give it a chance, because if you follow the plan, you will see results. It's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of sticking with it. And you have to plan what's going to work for you in the future. You can't plan based on who you think you're going to be. You can't plan based on uh, who you think you could be. You need to plan based on who you are, and only you can decide. Uh, what kind of foods you want to eat, what kind of meals you want to eat, how often you want to eat, how what will get you to the gym. But those different motivators, those are the things that make us decide what we're going to do on a day-to-day basis, and only you know the motivators for yourself. So set those up ahead of time. Make it easier on your future self.
There you go. What would you say? Any last words about the program or the experience you had?
It's a great program. It's the best program I've ever done, and totally worth it. And I am continuing with it. So so there you go.
Where do you go from here, Garrett?
Uh, build more muscle, build more muscle and stay healthy, you know.
There you go. Well, I want to acknowledge you, and I want to let you know how proud I am of you. I don't say that cliche. I say that being 100% honest. Your transformation from where you started many years ago to where you are now is mind-blowing, incredible. The physical, the mental, the emotional, everything you've shared with us today, it's one hell of a journey, man. And I'm so proud of you because it's not easy. I know how difficult it is. In each step of it, even just the last 4 months, I know how difficult it is, and you knocked it out of the park. You weren't perfect, but you continued to make progress and put one foot in front of the other every single day. You've worked hard. You've changed so many things. You improved so many things about your health, your fitness, your mindset, your emotions. Just incredible, man. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you for being a part of this. I'm so grateful to have worked with you. It's been a pleasure and a real honor, and I'm so glad that we're going to continue to work together.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.